Mick Cronin called his team soft and delusional after the Michigan game. This game against Maryland, they were embarrassing and pathetic.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This is a reaction episode to the Maryland game, and hey, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And where we get started, boy, oh boy, this was ugly. It was, man, to respond to how your coach calls you out, and then for Mick Cronin to pride himself as a defensive-minded coach and his team to allow Maryland to score close to 80 points, shoot over 54%, decent amount of three-point shots, 37% from three. That was just atrocious, man. This team is lost. The most annoying thing about this game was that Maryland didn't put away UCLA early, so then they could have put us all out of our misery. Because it's like, they're down 5. But that 5-point lead felt like a 15-point cushion for Maryland. It really did. Just watching the broadcast, they're sitting there like, it's teetering. It's on the verge of Maryland pulling away. And Cronin finally lost his crap. The best analogy I heard them talk about during the game, the crew, was about how sometimes you're the statue and sometimes the bird, man. And there's times when UCLA, their defense is literally the bird. And we're not talking about giving somebody the bird. They're the bird, doing the business on the statue. And UCLA right now is a statue that is decorated in the worst fashion possible, if you catch my drift. If you don't, they were talking about it on the broadcast. Maybe go back and listen to it. The bleep all over the statue. All right, that UCLA is the statue. In Maryland, anybody they're playing right now are the birds coming and just literally raining crap on their parade. There's no other way to put it right now. For some reason, whatever happened between the Gonzaga game to now, it's like UCLA let this exhale, let the hot air out of the balloon. And then next thing you know, they come out here and played pathetic. They lose this game to Maryland 79-61. Cronin made national headlines with how he called out his team. And he responded by getting himself kicked out. And when he got kicked out, gave Maryland 4 points because the guy made 4 free throws. And they got an extra possession with the bucket. A 6-point possession, which ended the game. It was a 9-point game with 5 minutes. It didn't seem like UCLA was going to come back. But he's like, I'm done with this. I'm tired. He has consistently said about how he is the most energetic guy on the staff, or the most energetic guy on the team, and how the players, they just look lost offensively. You see Kevin Willard's team for Maryland, and they're playing the Mick Cronin defense, right? They do a little more switching. They do more changes defensively, but they're the type of team that UCLA wants to be, right? They're the team that took it to UCLA. If you want to see what Mick Cronin wants and how he wants to play, go up, hit shots, shoot better than 50%. He can score 80 points a game, score 26 points off turnovers. That's how Maryland plays. So if you want to see what UCLA is supposed to be a blueprint, look at Maryland. Now, they kind of do things differently, and they're not always the most successful, but Maryland was really good tonight, took it to the Bruins, and did everything possible to keep UCLA off their game. And remember, so this is what Mick Cronin said so far during ugly losses. Against New Mexico, when UCLA had 20-plus turnovers against the Lobos, he said they couldn't beat a D2 team. He's last called them out for being soft and delusional, and all they responded was with one of their worst performances of the year. I don't think the Michigan game was one of their worst performances of the year. Now, they've lost 5 times. They're 11-5. The North Carolina was an ugly choke. You have the Michigan game, which was just brutal, but this one was just an eyesore, right? The Nebraska game was very hard to watch. It was, a wake-up call in a sense, but now they've lost 3 in a row since the calendar has turned to January, since we've moved into the year 2025, and we've played non-West Coast Big Ten teams, 2 of which on the road, and a Big Ten contender at home in Michigan, and the Bruins have come out flat, giving up 40 points in the first half to Maryland, looking out of it for the first part of the second half with an ugly stretch, turning it over 20 times and letting Maryland shoot it over 50%. You're not going to win any of these games. Now you had just about everybody play terrible in this game. Bilodeau went 7 of 12 for 18 points, but he had 4 turnovers, leading all UCLA players. He's sometimes trying to do it by himself. Eric Daly Jr. had one of his worst games, playing more than 25 minutes in this game. We saw an extended stint from Trent Perry, 21 minutes, 10 points. Dylan Andrews was in early foul trouble in the first half. And then we saw Perry get some extended action. I really liked how we saw that. Got more minutes than Sebastian Mack did in this game, interestingly enough. More minutes than Stefanovic and Mack almost combined is what we saw from Trent Perry on the floor. So it was interesting. Cronin in the game where he leaned on him a lot. The Bruins, you could argue, played a little bit better, but you saw the true freshman make some mistakes, and you're like, sometimes the Bruins are going to have to pull away from playing the true freshman. But I thought he played okay, 10 minutes, and after having not done a lot the last few games, for Cronin to lean on his freshman point guard so much in a game where he is calling out his players, his whole roster, interesting. Now you had Jacoby Gillespie, who was on fire with 27 points, couldn't miss, and didn't do anything in the beginning of the second half, and then scored like 14 points close to it in the final 6 minutes because Cronin stormed off the court and got ejected. The UCLA is lost, absolutely lost. And there's a scrappy Rutgers team waiting Monday night for them in Piscataway. They have 2 talented freshmen, a good point guard. They got a good center who are just kind of looking for that signature win. UCLA is now collapsing to the point where if this skid continues, they will play themselves onto the bubble. All right. They've done a lot of work to put themselves in the NCAA tournament, which is all UCLA generally has to do. And then a good matchup here and there, they can go on a run. But right now, this team is trending towards not even contending for a Big Ten title, which is now they're 2-3 in Big Ten play after starting 2-0. They have no identity offensively. How many of those offensive sets just look terrible? They threw the ball away. They had terrible inbounds plays. They would turn over the backcourt. Yeah, they forced Maryland to 16 turnovers, but when you turn it over 21 times, what are you going to do? This team does look soft. Maybe delusional, but at this point, they've put in back-to-back terrible games, 2 of the 3 games where they just looked awful offensively. One shooting today, just forgetting how to pass, how to run any sort of offense. It's been a while since I've seen a college basketball team look this bad and have no offensive scheme. And that ended up being the end for that college basketball team I was watching. And it took code. It was, this is brutal right now. The defense is not there either. And UCLA is now just pretty much undersized in a lot of these matchups because Big Ten teams, they're going to trot out guys that are bigger, faster, better than what UCLA has brought off the bench or what they trust with William Kyle, what they trust with the Diamara. You had a Diamara playing early in most games, and now that William Kyle has come back from his medical procedure, he came out early in this game and played 10 minutes, more than Mata's 3, and those 2 combined for a turnover, 0 points, and 2 rebounds in 13 minutes. How are you going to do that when that's your production from the post? And then UCLA's backcourt, you put all their points together between Clark, Andrews, Kobe Johnson. You throw Daly in there because he's basically a small 4. We'll put him into the starting lineup. So you got 11, 18, 25 points between 4 of your starters, and Gillespie himself scored 27, outscoring UCLA's 4 of the 5 starters single-handedly, just dominated. I don't know what's going to change between now and Monday, but they have Saturday, Sunday to go over things. Mick Cronin absolutely lost it and got himself kicked out, saying, I'm done with this game. Sorry, team, but I'm going to send a message because that gave up a 6-point possession to Maryland, and that was pretty much ended any slim hope that UCLA had in this game, even though after Maryland went on a long extended run in the first half and held the lead, even as much as a 4-point game going into half, you're just like, UCLA's not going to win this game. They didn't play like it. They didn't deserve it. Didn't seem like they wanted it. Nor were they good enough to win it. That's just quite frankly what's going on right now. Something is off, really off. Because they were good enough to beat Gonzaga, Arizona, win at Oregon, and now Oregon has suffered a terrible, crushing home loss to Illinois. But you can't be a slouch to go beat some of those teams, or be in position to beat some of those teams and go on the stretch UCLA was on. But man, they are lost. They are lost right now, and Cronin is up against it. Whether it's him, whether it's the team, whether it's all those things combined, the Bruins are a pathetic unit right now, and they're embarrassing because they were a top 25 team. Nope, they're going to be gone from the top 25 for the next few weeks until they prove themselves again. Bracketology has them sliding down from Joe Lenardi. I'd be surprised if they are maybe an 8 next time it comes out. There is hope. It's just bleak, very bleak if you look at it right now. Now, this is where Cronin likes to do his best work, but if he doesn't do it this year, with the amount of things and the amount of time he spent in the portal, barking about the NIL last year, changing his recruiting strategy the last couple of years. Remember, this team has no 2025 commits. There's still hope for some good players. You could go for a last-second 2025 commit. But what are you going to do? Run off some of these players? Go improve the recruiting class that has nothing coming in? This is almost an all-or-nothing type of year because most of these players can come back for another year or two or even more in some cases. And it's early January. Remember that. Still more than 2 months until we even get to the conference tournament, until we get Selection Sunday. So there's a lot of time, a lot of crazy, entertaining, fun Big Ten games to come in between. But man, you can't call it a wake-up call anymore. They are struggling and playing god-awful. God-awful. Now we'll just see how the Bruins respond moving forward. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. You don't need to wait for answers. You're not going to wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you got 1 form or 20, TurboTax experts gives your taxes their undivided attention. While you get real-time updates on their progress, you can focus on what really matters. You don't even need to lift a finger, but you get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Get ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back. Get it guaranteed. Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Visit the website and go check it out. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, it's going to wrap it up today because the Bruins were absolutely rough. So bad in this 18-point loss on the road. No response. Remember, another thing that's an added element in Big Ten play, you go from a Saturday game in Lincoln, a Tuesday night in Westwood, and then with all the things that are happening right now in LA with all that stuff too, then you got to go all the way to the East Coast and then have a couple game run there and then come back. This is where the grind of the Big Ten is going to hurt UCLA, and either going to bring them together as a team or they're going to fall apart and this team might be the end of something. We'll find out. I still have faith that Cronin can figure it out. The team can figure it out. But right now, they're not even a guarantee to beat Rutgers on the road Monday night, which will also be a rocking atmosphere that wants to take UCLA down and has 2 exciting freshmen that want a big-time win at home. Maryland got that today in dominant fashion. Rutgers is even more of a desperate mode of needing that type of win against UCLA. I think the Bruins can match up well with Rutgers. Rutgers turns the ball over with reckless abandon with young players, young stars. But the Bruins come out with this lack of offensive identity, just flat defense, and the inability to play any sort of cohesive rotation at all. And the Bruins are in for a very long slump right here in middle to late January after they've started the first 3 games of 2025 off with 3 pretty bad losses. No way. I like to be positive. I went on that last episode talking about the history of Mick Cronin at UCLA leading to results after he loses his mind. I can't wait to see what the next presser says, but until then, the Bruins have to get to work, get to the drawing board. All right. Next episode, we're going to talk on a special Saturday edition of Locked On UCLA, more UCLA football recruiting, who they could close out the 2025 class with, and who is coming the portal. We'll talk about that next on the next Locked On UCLA episode, and any, if any, UCLA zingers from the head coach in the postgame presser. That's going to do it. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.